Happy Shorty September to all who celebrate. Tomorrow, I think by the time this is up on YouTube, tomorrow is the 1st of September. So whilst we mourn the loss of our summer, we have the joy of Shorty September to see us through into the autumn. So Shorty September is a readathon hosted by Sian and Berta past Storytime and Heather at Too Many Heathers, and they've created this really fun list of prompts in the form of tarot cards this year to encourage us to read those short books. So I've done a TBR for what I'm hoping to read for Shorty September, but I thought I've actually read some amazing short books and so wanted to share some recommendations as well. So you might be sat there thinking, oh, I haven't found anything for this prompt, or I don't know what to read. So I've got you, don't you worry. So I'll talk through the books and let you know which prompts they'll work for. But of course, all of these prompts would work for the Leopard Print Shorts prompt, because that's a book that you've seen in the wild. So you can consider, having watched this video, that you've seen it in the wild. Or you could count any of these books for paper bag shorts if you go out and buy yourself one of these books and you get given a paper bag with it. Okay, so let's start. My first recommendation is The Madwoman's Ball by Victoria Mass, and it's translated from the French by Frank Wynne. This is set in Paris in 1885. Eugenie is part of a wealthy family, but when she starts to talk about seeing the ghost of her dead grandfather, and when she starts to ask questions of her brother and his intellect and want to be involved in his social circles, she's shipped off to the infamous Salpêtrière, an asylum for women, where Dr. Charcot, famous, a real life person, famous for his work in investigating and trying to understand women's hysteria. And so she's sent there as a patient. And there she meets the other patients, who are all women and all there probably not for mental illnesses. Let's say that. We follow Eugenie and the head nurse predominantly, and how their stories intertwine as they grow a deeper understanding of one another. Based on true events in history, this is a really feminist book that shines a light on where we started when it comes to women's mental health, and worryingly how not so far that we've come. So this could count for a couple of different prompts. It could count for the New Metal Bermuda Shorts prompt, because it's a blend of genres. There's a little bit of ghost story in here. It's also historical fiction, so it could work from that point of view. It's also, oh, it would also work for Half and Half Shorts, because there is a film of this, but let me warn you, the film is shit. It's on Amazon Prime, I think, and yeah, it doesn't capture any of the important or good bits in the book, and was a pretty poor adaptation in my opinion. But you know, sometimes it's worth watching it just to kind of like experience that. Or it could count for shorts with pockets, because there's a fan on the front of here, there's some gloves, there's a rose. All of those things would fit in your pocket. The next book I've got for you is The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind by Alex McCarthy. I've literally just finished reading this. It's an incredibly beautiful story of a small Welsh village. 16-year-old Catherine lives with her agoraphobic mother, and there's this mystery of a missing aunt, her mother's sister, that hangs over the family. In the style of Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood, we get snapshots in an aerial view into some of these homes, and each one of these characters has a secret. This book is incredibly short, but uncovers so much, and in these pages contains one of my favourite ever characters, Mrs. W, who's the little old lady who runs the corner shop, but she has a serious dark side. So that's The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone. This would count for Zip Off Trousers, because that title could definitely be shorter, or Taylor Swift Shorts, because there is a breakup in these pages. Next up is The Blue Book of Nebo by Manon Steffan Ros. This is a somewhat post-apocalyptic book about a mother and son who are surviving after some sort of catastrophic event. There are no other people existing around them. They're having to farm for their food. And this book is them writing about their experiences without reading each other's chapters. So you get a really intimate look on both of their experiences and sometimes the same events from two different perspectives. It's incredibly heart-wrenching, it's very beautiful, and it would count for Taylor Swift shorts because there is a breakup in this book. My next recommendation is Clear by Carys Davies. Set in 1843, Ivor is the sole occupant of a remote Scottish island. But the landowners want him to move on because the land is more valuable for sheep grazing than it is for having a tenant. And so John, a minister, is sent to remove him. But on his way there, he's involved in a shipwreck and so washes up on the shores and is picked up by Ivor and nurtured back to health. These two don't speak the same language. John is obviously in a vulnerable position, not how he wanted to introduce himself in this situation. And so the two have to work around each other, Ivor not knowing why John is there and John not knowing the best time to reveal his true intentions. This book had a really remarkable ending, one that I wasn't expecting at all. I struggled to know which prompt this would fit, and I'm going to say the summer cookout shorts because there's definitely a lot of mention of cooking with oats. So if you fancy something oaty, Clear by Carys Davies is your book. Next up is Hex by Jenni Fagan. This tells the story of Gaelis Duncan, a real-life woman who was executed as a witch in Scotland. Hex tells her story on the eve of her execution in a really unique way. A modern-day witch transports herself in the guise of a crow to Gaelis' cell to hear her story. So this would work for new metal Bermuda shorts. It's a genre blend of historical fiction and speculative. Next up is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This is the OG vampire story. This was written before Dracula by Bram Stoker. So this is about a young girl who lives in a kind of castle-y situation with her father. One day a horse and carriage is driving past and crashes, and out of it spills this girl, Carmilla. Unable to carry on with her journey, the father and daughter offer to look after Carmilla whilst she recovers and allows her mother to continue on her journey, which is of import. She can't stay. So Carmilla ingratiates herself into this household and becomes a beloved friend. But there are nefarious things going on at night. This is sapphic and vampiric and deliciously gothic. This would work for your half and half shorts because there are film adaptations of Carmilla. And it would also work for ripped shorts because there's a little bit of a horror element to it. Next up is Runt by Niall Griffiths. This, in my opinion, is a really special book. It's about a 16-year-old boy who, when he leaves school, is sent to live with his uncle, who he calls his drunkle, on a farm because his mother's abusive partner doesn't want him around anymore. He has a really unique view on the world, and we discover in this book his unique take on the world is a gift. And it's all tied up in myth and folklore. It's kind of unusual because this is told through the boy's inner monologue, so we're in his thoughts, and his thinking style takes some getting used to. I felt like it was a bit like being in the mind of a teenage BFG in the way that he speaks or thinks. But you quickly adapt to his thinking style and become incredibly invested in him and his relationships, particularly with his relationship with his dog. I think this could work for summer cookout shorts because I'm sure I remember lots happening in a kitchen at the farm. There's definitely fry-ups going on, so if you fancy a cooked breakfast, then this could work for that. It would also count for Taylor Swift shorts because it includes breakups, and new metal Bermuda shorts because this is both speculative and contemporary. Next up is Heatwave by Victor Jestin, translated from the French by Sam Taylor. This is a fever dream of a book. It's about a teenage boy on holiday in France in the height of summer at a camping resort. One night he witnesses one of the other boys, one of his peers, hang himself accidentally on the swings. And instead of reporting that, he decides to hide the body. The rest of this book follows him over the next 24-48 hours and all that he gets up to. It's a wild time. We are very much in the mind of a teenage boy in this book, and so this would work really well as a genre blend for new metal Bermuda shorts, because you can count it as coming of age slash kind of thriller mystery. It also works as a prompt for ripped shorts for that reason, and it counts as Taylor Swift shorts because despite the fact that this is set over quite a short period of time, there are still several breakups. My next recommendation is one Moonlit Night by Caradog Prichard. This is translated from the Welsh by Phillip Mitchell. This is another one set in a small Welsh mining town. We don't know the name of our young narrator, but we follow him as he's ganging about with his best mate on the hills, getting home in time for his supper with his mam, running about the village, listening into bits of gossip. So on the surface, we're seeing a story play out through very innocent eyes. But beneath that surface is a huge amount of trauma, poverty, despair. It does a brilliant job of capturing those really dark themes through innocent eyes, and we as a reader obviously interpret things very differently to our narrator. I think that makes a really special reading experience. I'm going to say that this counts for rockstar shorts because there's lots of hymns and male voice choir mentions in here, so if that's your jam, then this might be the book for you. Another book that could work for rockstar shorts is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. This is obviously better known for its film adaptation, so it would obviously also be really suitable for half and half shorts, and I would really recommend, if you haven't read this, to pick this for this prompt. The reason that I say that is that this book is so different to the film, and it's so interesting to see how that's been interpreted. Our main character, Holly Golightly, in this is a sex worker, or at least an escort, and whilst that's alluded to in the film, it's very much kind of Hollywooded and glazed and veneered over to make it a more palatable role for Audrey Hepburn. The book isn't a love story either, which the film is. I'd really recommend giving Breakfast at Tiffany's a read if you haven't. My next recommendation is Reamble by Priya Hine. This is a really beautiful book set in Mauritius. Noemi is 15 years old and she lives with her single mother. Her mother is a maid or house worker in a very big house belonging to wealthy people on the island, and occasionally Noemi goes in and helps her mum with her work. She is somewhat befriended by the homeowner's son or grandson, and what happens between them forms part of this story. It's an incredibly beautiful look at colonialism, class, ethnicity, and the unfairness of wealth. Lots of this book is written in vignettes, and some of those vignettes are poems and some are recipes. So I think this would be a really great pick for summer cookout shorts. There's also a breakup in here, so it could count for Taylor Swift shorts too. My next recommendation is Elizabeth and Her German Garden by Elizabeth von Arnim. I have a bit of a love affair going on with Elizabeth von Arnim this year, and it's partly because of this book. Written in diary form, Elizabeth tells us about her struggles and aspirations for her garden, but so much more is held between these pages. Elizabeth von Arnim's wit and social commentary is hilarious. She refers to her husband only as the Man of Wrath, and she begrudgingly tolerates visitors over a tense Christmas period. One of my favourite quotes from this book is this: "Relations are like drugs, useful sometimes and even pleasant if taken in small quantities and seldom, but dreadfully pernicious on the whole, and the truly wise avoid them." This book is full of witticisms just like that. She's hilarious. So I think this would work for Zip Off Trousers, because that could definitely be a shorter title. And I'm going to say New Metal Bermuda shorts too, because this is semi-autobiographical. It's also nature writing, so it's kind of an auto-fiction situation, which I think is a genre blend of its own. Next up I have Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. This is about a 15-year-old girl who is on a sort of break with her mother and father. Her father is an avid amateur historian, and so they're with some university students on an archaeology course, having a go at living as ancient Britons. As she spends time with the students, she glimpses that her own life might not be as it should be, and her father's dogged approach to living as authentically as an ancient Briton as possible takes a really dark turn. I actually think that this could work for summer cookout shorts because there's a lot about them eating authentically. So they're eating rabbit that they've caught. They also go hunting for mussels, so if you fancy some seafood, that could work. And I guess you could really tenuously count it for ripped shorts too, because there is this kind of element of leading up to something sinister and nefarious towards the end of the book, which could be counted as a bit of a thriller. Okay. So next up I have a series and a duology to recommend. So let's start with the duology, and that is the Monk and the Robot series by Becky Chambers. So that's A Psalm for the Well Built and A Prayer for the Crown Shy. These books are set in a post-technology future. There's been an agreement where humans have agreed that they've taken too much advantage of machines and robots, and so the robots have taken themselves off into the wild and the humans live without them completely separately. We follow our main character Dex, who is a tea monk. If I was to choose a fictional job, it would be that. So Dex travels around rural communities and listens to people's problems and then makes them an individualised blend of tea based on whatever their needs are that day. Doesn't that sound beautiful? But Dex is feeling a bit disillusioned with their experience in the world, and so decides to go off the beaten track and into the wilderness. And then meets Moscap. Moscap is a robot in search of humans to find out what they might need and what they might be missing, having lived so many years without robot support. So these two become unlikely friends and travel companions as they each search for answers to their own questions. It's incredibly wholesome without being twee at all. I feel like Becky Chambers' writing is always balm and food for the soul, and these are the absolute epitome of that. And the series that I have to recommend is the Wayward Children series. I have the first 4 books, but there are maybe 9 or 10 of them now. So the first of these is Every Heart a Doorway. These are by Shauna Maguire, by the way. I should probably have led with that. The first of these is Every Heart a Doorway. So the Wayward Children series is a portal fantasy series. It's about a group of children who at some point in their youth discover a door to a magical world. Each of the worlds that the children visit are different and unique to their own personal needs and wants and likes. But at some point they're kicked out of this world and back into the real world, and they find it really difficult to assimilate. And that's where Miss West comes in. Miss West runs a residential school for these children where they can go and live in a therapeutic, supportive setting around like-minded people having had similar experiences. Generally speaking, these books kind of alternate between the school world and the backstories, the worlds that these characters visit. So our first book is a bit of a murder mystery actually, and that's set in the school. The second book, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, is 2 of the characters' backstories, and they are Jack and Jill. And yes, this is a Jack and Jill retelling with a vampiric twist. How good does that sound? And so these books kind of give the best of both worlds. You get to see these fantastical worlds that the children visit, but bringing those stories back to reality adds real depth and nuance to those experiences. Next, I have some non-fiction recommendations for you. So all of these would count for supermarket 2-pack shorts. You can pair them with whatever other books that you're reading. The first is Gathering, Women of Colour on Nature, and this is edited by Duri Shawa and Nasir Sawaskius. This is a collection of essays written by women of colour all about nature. There's loads of Welsh authors in here too, so I'd really like to champion it from that point of view. And there's a real abundance of stories and topics covered in here, from neurodiversity to climate activism. My personal favourite was about wild swimming. So if you're reading any other books for Shorty September about nature, then this could be a good one to pair with that. My next recommendation is Silence by Erling Kagg. This is a really incredible book. It's a selection of sort of meditations and reflections on silence and its value and its meaning in our lives. It's written by Erling Kagg, who's an expeditionist. He, I think, was the first person to do the three poles in the world. So he's been to the North Pole, the South Pole, and to the top of Everest. And so he spent a lot of time solo travelling through these incredibly isolated places and experienced a profound amount of silence. I think there was a period where he went 50 days of silence, which is just mind-blowing to me. So he's written this book capturing what he learned from those moments of silence. This is a really special read, and I got a lot from it at the time. I've read it quite a few years ago now, but it's interspersed with these really incredible pictures of Erling's time on his expeditions. I'm hoping to read the other book that he's written, Walking, in this Shorty September, because shamefully I've had that for about 2 years and not read it, but having really enjoyed this, I really should. My next recommendation is In the End, It Was All About Love by Musa Okwonga. This is a memoir set in 3 parts. It's about Musa's experience as a migrant living in Berlin. It's about his experience seeing a psychotherapist, and it's about his experience returning to his homeland, Uganda. It's incredibly beautiful, powerful and moving, and I can remember sitting in the garden and feeling all of the feels whilst I read this book. So if you're reading any other books about love or about migrant experiences or about seeing a therapist, this would be a great pick for supermarket 2-pack shorts. And last, for my non-fiction recommendations, I have books by Matt Haig. So I have Reasons to Stay Alive, Notes on a Nervous Planet and The Comfort Book. These are 3 of his non-fiction books that he's written. These are all absolutely spectacular books. The first of these books is about Matt's experience of depression, and it starts with a time when he felt very acutely suicidal, and the book Reasons to Stay Alive, the clue is in the title, is about how he learnt to navigate that and how he recovered from that. Notes on a Nervous Planet is more about how we navigate the modern world and how we navigate the news cycle and so on, whilst still managing to be human beings and care about those things, but also not completely lose our shit. And The Comfort Book, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's just a really lovely book full of reminders of things that we can take comfort in or in. The thing I love about Matt Haig's non-fiction writing, and these books in particular, is that they are really kind to the brain. He loves a list, so some of the chapters are just lists of things, which is a really satisfying thing to read somehow. They're incredibly simple but really profound, and so yeah, if any of these books appeal, or if you think that they would pair nicely with something else that you're reading, then I can recommend these 3 wholeheartedly. Last but not least, we have our bonus prompt, which is Paul Mescal Shorts, which is to read a book by an Irish author, and there is only one Irish author to turn to for this Shorty September prompt, and that is Claire Keegan. So I've read Small Things Like These and Foster by Claire Keegan, and they are spectacular books. Claire Keegan is an absolute master of capturing human experience and emotion and saying so much with so few words. Every word is so precise, and yet she makes it feel effortless. These are both really incredibly beautiful books. Personally, my favourite is Small Things Like These. I thought this was mind-blowingly something else. I thought this was absolutely incredible, but Foster is set over a summer, so if we have a warm September then this might be it, or if we go straight into winter weather then I would go for Small Things Like These, because this is set over Christmas. So there you have it. Those are my recommendations, things I've read and loved that have been short but incredibly powerful and really wonderful special books and great reading experiences. So if you're still looking for something for Shorty September, I'll make sure that I add all of the names of these books and the prompts that I think that they could fit in the description down below. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and a very happy Shorty September to you.